Hi everyone. Well, thanks for being here so early. Actually, on our way here, we're expected to have 2 people in here, so we're actually quite excited to have a crowd of early birds. My name is Mo. I'm in charge of community and education at LEDGER. I'm here with Gaspard, who probably needs a mic, if it's possible. Can we get a second mic, please? And we're here to talk to you about how not to get wrecked in NFT land. And the whole idea is that, okay, starting well. That's all right. No worries. Cool. So, yeah, well, talk to you about how not to get tracked in NFT land. Gaspard here with me. Maybe you want to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mo. Very quickly, my name is Gaspard. I'm a big NFT collector and also NFT project manager at LEDGER. So very excited to be here and to share some knowledge and best practice how not to get wrecked and to build a valuable collection in the long term.
Yeah, so obviously, 2021 has been an amazing year for NFTs. Otherwise, okay. Logistics, sorry about that. So 2021 is obviously an amazing year for NFTs. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. This whole concept of digital ownership and sovereignty has unleashed creativity for artists. If you think about it, it's pretty amazing for us to be able to own our own keys, create our contracts, distribute our assets without having to resort to any third party. And that's amazing, but the whole idea is that now you're becoming your own bank. What we usually say is that with big freedom comes big responsibility. The problem today is there are assets that are worth millions and hundreds of thousands of dollars that are solely secured by you. We're used to having custodians, protect our assets. This tweet behind me is one of the hundreds and probably thousands of tweets that we see on Twitter every day. The problem is that this ecosystem today is in lack of proper education of how people can actually secure their assets.
Yeah, just to take a step back, it's really amazing what's happening right now. 2021 has been an amazing year. I was lucky enough to arrive in the NFT world in early 2020, and at that time it was a really dark place with only marginalized artists trying to make a living. The artist was rejected from the traditional art world, traditional gallery, auction house. And since late 2020, with the Beeple auctions, now everybody is trying to enter the NFT world, brands, artists, and now the same auction house are begging artists to do drops on their websites. And so it's an amazing year to live, and we are still very early. And because we are very early, there is also a lot of weaknesses in terms of security. And often artists don't have the knowledge of crypto and the basic knowledge of cryptography. So we're gonna spend 1 or 2 minutes just to remind you what are the technology underlying NFTs and crypto. So basically the blockchain is a public ledger that is open to everyone to read. And when you create your first address, in the blockchain, you're basically being given a pair of keys, a private key and a public key. The public key is acting as your mailing box, so you can give this address to anyone so that people can send you NFT, send you crypto, send you digital assets. But the only way to prove that you own those assets is also to own the private key related to this address. And this is the most important thing to secure in the crypto world, secure this private key. And all the hackers, all the scammers in the world will try to steal from you this private key. So this is the most important digital asset to secure.
So, you know, Noé, who's here today, they were doing yesterday a workshop about the basics of blockchain. So we're just covering that first part in order for us to deep dive a little bit more into how you can secure NFTs. And, you know, one of the biggest misconception is most people think that the NFTs or the digital assets are in their wallet. No, the actual thing is that these assets live on the blockchain. And the only way for you to verify or to prove that you own certain assets is by owning that private key. So the security of your assets is only at the level of the security of your private key. If you can't secure your private key and someone gets their hand on your private key, which is also backed up by your 12, 16, or 24 word seed phrase, then your assets are gone. And that's back to the point of talking about digital sovereignty. You know, when you become your own bank, there's a lot of freedom that comes with it, but you need to understand exactly how you can best secure that private key, because if you lose it, then, you know, probably going to spend some sleepless nights.
So the cornerstone of interacting with the blockchain, here there is actually there are two kinds of wallets. So we call it wallets. It's the cornerstone of Web3. You have hot wallet. We all know it. The most famous is MetaMask. It's a piece of software that enables you to interact with the blockchain to buy NFT. And your private key actually is stored on the device in which you're using the hot wallet. So basically, the private key will be stored locally on your mobile phone or computer. And by design, a computer and mobile phone are not designed to secure and to protect secrets and Web3 secrets. And that's why to really protect your private key, you need Web3 devices. And that's why we and LEDGER created the LEDGER Nanos solutions, which is a Web3 device that will secure your secret in a secure element. So it's the same kind of chip that you have in a biometric passport or credit cards. And you have to also physically push the buttons on the device to enable transaction. So it acts as a two-way and it really helps you to secure and to interact securely on the blockchain.
So it's all right. So yeah, the whole idea is that, you know, the whole security of the private key depends on where the private key is hosted. So, you know, the hot wallets, you know, probably if anyone here has NFTs, you've probably set up a hot wallet. It's pretty easy to use. It's great because it's a great onboarding step for most people. But the problem is that, as Gaspard was saying, the hot wallet itself lives on a Web2 hardware. A Web2 hardware is a mobile phone, like the one you're holding in your hand. It is, you know, a MacBook or a laptop. And these actual devices haven't been designed to keep secrets. Actually, it's quite the contrary. These devices have been designed in order to fluidify and optimize the interaction between all of the different applications. So they're actually designed in order to circulate information and not to keep it and secure it. So this is actually, you know, one of the biggest frictions here is that Web2 hardware is not designed for Web3 assets. And once you understand this, you start understanding that having a Web2 hardware is actually something that opens up a lot of attack vectors. If we're talking about, you know, malware, viruses, all of these things that can infect your, mobile device or your laptop, actually can extract, you know, your private keys. So the whole idea of having a Web3 hardware is that it's specifically designed to protect Web3 secrets. And if it's okay, if we can go to the other presentation, it's fine. Because, you know, we've changed a couple of slides since then, but it's okay, we can go to the old version of the presentation. So if you go to the, you know, the this one. So the whole idea of the Ledger hardware wallet itself is that the private key itself that we were mentioning, which is the thing that enables you to prove that you own these assets, is secured on a secure element chip. The secure element chip is the chip that most of us actually in the room, you all have secure element chips on you. You have them in your credit cards and in your biometric passports. This is like military grade security. And these chips actually protect your private keys, and your private keys never leave the device. Even you don't know them. The only thing you have is your 16, 12 or 24 word seed phrase. At Ledger we use 24 words. And this is the only thing that you need to write on a piece of paper and protect offline. The other good element about this is that you will always have to verify on the trusted display of your Ledger device any intent that you take using your mobile phone or your laptop. And once you verify it on that screen, you will physically confirm it with your own hands. So that means that even if any of your mobile phone is infected or laptop is, you will actually, no one is going to be able to move any assets so as long as you have not verified and physically confirmed that transaction.
So a good way to interact with NFTs is basically to secure your private key with a ledger and to connect it to MetaMask to have the easy to use and to interact easily with NFT. So that's a good practice that we recommend, and we can talk about it later if we want. But maybe we are gonna enter into the heart of the subject, and we are gonna to see what kind of threats are the most popular in the NFT space and Web3 in general. Of course, the first one, so you will have a long journey, and the first main threat will be, of course, virus and malware. Virus and malware, basically, you will people are going to scam you and trying to make you download some files. For example, there is a famous hack that happened last year. It happened to Fuckrender and Soriantosur, which are two very famous artists. An attacker was impersonating himself as a collector, and he was sending message to Fuckrender by direct message and asking them to download a file in order to get mood board and in order to do commission work. And so Fuckrender downloaded this file and opened it, and right away a virus was corrupting the computer, and the seed phrase and the private key was immediately stolen, and all the assets on his wallet was stolen.
And the whole idea is that, back to what we were saying earlier, these viruses infect two hardware. So if you own a Ledger hardware wallet, you're actually protected from this because you have your private key in the secure element chip. You can verify every transaction on the trusted display. And so as long as you don't physically verify it, nothing's going to move. So that's the whole idea of having that physical 2FA.
And there are also more complex virus like spyware. We all heard about the Pegasus project. That is a state malware. And those kind of malware are infecting mass computer in the world, and the attacker can have access to all your password and corrupt a lot of computers. So it's very easy for them to get your private key from there. Another common threat, another question that we are asked a lot of time, what if we lose our Ledger hardware? If someone stole it from you physically, what's happening? We have anticipated this use case. Indeed, if an attacker have the device in their hand, there is a PIN code that is also stored in the secure element, and if the attacker want to brute force the PIN code, after 3 failed attempts, it will factory reset the device. So don't worry about it. Even if you lose your device, the attacker cannot do anything with it.
Yeah, so the whole idea is that, having that aspect enables the private key to actually be deleted right away. So congratulations to the robber. They probably have a free Ledger hardware nano and probably going to use it, but your private keys are safe. That's actually now that we understand that owning a Ledger hardware wallet actually protects you from all of these viruses and malwares and spywares and all the scary stuff that we were talking about. It actually doesn't protect you from everything. Because at the end of the day, if you have the tool itself and you have the best security around your house, you have motion detectors and cameras and lasers. If someone rings the doorbell and you open up the door for them, you're probably going to get robbed as well. So the whole idea is that there's a huge element of education that people actually need to understand in order for them not to get scammed. Because today, most of the attackers out there understand that all of the people that have a worthy portfolio of NFTs have hardware wallets. So what they're doing today is they're trying to scam you and they're not trying to hack you. And this is really the core of our conversation today. So first of all, we have phishing attacks. Who knows what phishing attacks are? Raise your hand. Cool, lots of people. So yeah, phishing attacks is a practice of someone trying to impersonate either another person, or a company like Ledger. So you'd get like an email saying, "Hey, your Ledger account got hacked. The only way for you to recover your Ledger account is by putting your 24 seed phrase in that website." Obviously, never, ever, ever, ever share your 24 words with anyone. They're only meant to be input in your hardware device and on a piece of paper. That is supposed to be secured somewhere that no one else knows about.
Phishing attack can be from email, but also Google Ads, Discord, Twitter. So there is a lot of people using social engineering and impersonation to force you to click on a link, and so you can give up your seed phrase somewhere. So be very careful with the mail from Ledger, from OpenSea, from MetaMask, and especially look at the URL. You have to look closely because very often.
Yeah.
So
here the actual URL is actually LEDGER, not Ledger. And sometimes you're going to get OpenSea.com instead of OpenSea.io. And they're going to play with all of these little details. And most people actually don't detect these small red flags. So yeah. Second one is blind signing. Who knows what blind signing is? Less people. Yeah, obviously. Blind signing is actually the main attack vector today. And blind signing is actually the act of signing a smart contract transaction without knowing what actually the repercussion of that transaction might entail. And this actually occurs because today, even if you're using a Ledger device, when you're interacting with the different DApps, whether it be on NFTs or DeFi, the problem is that the plugins of the middlewares that you're using, so whether you're using Ledger with Wallet Connect or MetaMask, the plugins that are in these middlewares are not actually designed in order for them to be able to translate that hex data and the smart contract in an English language or in any language, a human readable language that you would understand. So most of the time, you're actually signing based on trust. So you trust OpenSea, you're going to sign a transaction on OpenSea, or trust, Paraswap or Uniswap or whatever. And you're signing that transaction based out of phase, which is ridiculous because we've actually designed all of this for us to be able to transact value in a trustless manner. So today, we're signing based on trust. And if we go back to the phishing attacks, if you end up on LEDGER or OpenSea.com and you sign based on trust, probably not a good signature. And if you were not able to verify exactly what that signature is going to do to your assets, you might end up with a missing Bored Ape or whatever NFT people lose on a daily basis.
Hopefully we are working on it at Ledger. We are building solution based on Ledger Live, which is our software. In Ledger Live, we are integrating a lot of DApp, like Paraswap, Rainbow.me, a lot of them. And when you are using those DApp from Ledger Live, we are assuring you that you are clear signing everything. You will be able to verify what you are doing on the trusted display of the Nano and also on the screen of your computer. So this is one way to interact more safely with your favorite DApps, and we are integrating more and more of them every week. So yes, we are trying to make Ledger Live really the gateway, the secure gateway to browse the Web3.
Yeah. So you still can use your Ledger device with MetaMask, Wallet Connect on Ethereum. All these amazing other wallets. Kukai, Temple, and Tezos, Phantom, and Solana. And we love using them, and we love interacting with all of these wonderful ecosystems. But at the same time, we're trying to make sure that everyone out there can have the safest experience. And we can't do that by only protecting your private keys. We need to enable you guys to be able to verify the transaction and clear sign every single transaction that you're going to take. And it's going to take a long time for us to be able to integrate all of these plugins and all of these different DApps in Ledger Live, but we're working on it. And hopefully this kind of blind signing attack vector is going to be addressed not solely by Ledger, but by all of the actors in the ecosystem in order to enable clear signing for the major, kind of activities. So, you want to go ahead, Gaspard, for the best practices in order for you not to get scammed?
Yeah, to sum up what we have just said, some basic security best practice, of course, never share your seed phrase and your 24 words. Secure it in a safe at the bank, and you don't need to access it in any way. You can also use metal plates or crypto steels security seed phrase to store it in a fireproof or waterproof way.
Yeah, and when actually you're blind signing, so we're not telling you not to blind sign. I work at Ledger and I blind sign every day, so it's an industry standard. But when I blind sign, I'm actually very careful. So if I'm going to mint the newest crazy elephant or board mouse or I don't know, whatever degen NFT collection that is dropping, I'd never sign it with my vault account. So the whole idea of Ledger is that one private key can actually generate hundreds of different accounts. And the security of each account is actually independent from the security of the other account. So let's say, so as long as you have your 24 seed phrase secured, your private key is secure, but the different public keys that are associated to these private keys can be used for different purposes. So I have what I call a degen wallet. My degen wallet enables me, doesn't have a lot of valuable assets. Actually, it only has Ethereum to cover for gas. And whenever I'm going to go and probably sign on a platform that I'm usually not using, I will probably use that wallet in order to segregate my assets. We call that asset segregation. And that will enable you to minimize the risks associated with blind signing if you still want to enjoy the whole ecosystem without restricting your freedom. Another actual thing that you could do that would actually kind of secure your assets a little bit more is revoking smart contract allowances. And I'm not going to go into the weeds of how that works, but what you need to understand is a marketplace like OpenSea enables you to list your different assets without paying gas fees is by doing a mixture of on and off-chain transactions. So, for instance, let's say you have a Bored Ape and you're gonna list a Bored Ape for the first time. You're actually going to give OpenSea the permission to take any Bored Ape. So you give the OpenSea smart contract allowance, you pay gas fees, it's an on-chain transaction, and then it gives OpenSea the permission to list any of your Bored Apes. So if you have a second Bored Ape or a third one, you're pretty lucky if you have 4 at this point, you can actually list them without paying gas fees at every single time. This is great because it's user experience, great user experience, but the thing is, if you actually end up on OpenSea.com instead of OpenSea.io, like we were saying earlier, and you sign a transaction without having your smart contract allowances revoked, it's a blind signature, the actual repercussions of that is that that blind signature can actually move your asset right away in one transaction. If you've actually revoked your smart contract allowances, it's going to take you 2 blind signatures. So it actually increases your chances of securing your assets in the case of blind signing and making a mistake. So you can actually revoke these smart contract allowances by going to revoke.cash. You can also do it on Etherscan. And if you've never done this, I'd highly advise you to log into these platforms and check the number of smart contract allowances that you've given to these different platforms, because you're probably going to find out that a lot of people have the authorizations to move your assets and you're not even aware of it. So this actually works with ERC 721s, it works with ERC 20s as well. You know, if you're not going to be moving any of these assets anytime soon, you probably should be revoking these permissions.
So part we are going to talk about is really to spot the red flags, and when you're trying to collect NFTs, there are numbers of way you should look very carefully before buying your asset. For example, when on OpenSea there is a new trending collection, you can be sure that right away there will be some scammers that are going to create fake collections with exactly the same name, the same images, even if it's absolutely not the same NFT because it's not the same smart contract and not the same token ID. But it will look the same, and if you're not careful, you will end up buying a fake NFT from a fake collection. So you have to look carefully the trading volume, and also if the account, the trading volume here, and also what is very important is to look its link to the official Twitter account. Sometimes it can be verified by OpenSea as well, the creator.
The idea here is that usually happens as soon as the collection drops. So you're going to go to OpenSea. OpenSea didn't yet have the time to verify the collection. So everyone's FOMOing. Everyone wants to buy the NFT quite fast before the floor goes up. And we've all kind of fallen for these. But the whole idea is that you should check the volume, check the number of transactions, check the number of owners first before buying the NFT. And the official collection usually has more volume and more owners than the fake one.
The other one we already talked a bit earlier, it's impersonation. So there will be a lot of people that will be pretending to be someone else. It can be, for this one, even this one is a verified Twitter account, but it's still a fake account of the fake co-founder of Bored Ape Yacht Club. You can also have people impersonating into fake support agent on Discord, on Twitter, fake MetaMask agent. When you have a problem with MetaMask, you are asking for help, you can be sure that it will be a fake agent that will come to talk to you and try to steal your private key.
Yeah, and the way they actually do that is quite funny, is that they hack already verified accounts. So they're going to hack already verified account, probably change the username, reach out to you and be like, hey, I'm a Bored Ape co-founder. Do you want to participate in that exclusive job because you're such a special person? Always be skeptical of DMs and things that are too good to be true. If it's too good to be true, it probably isn't. And that one is quite a complex one, but it's actually one that affects a lot of people. So most of us here tend to follow a person or two and trust their opinions. Gaspard is a huge NFT collector. I tend to go and check his OpenSea and Foundation and whatever pages he's using and marketplaces he's using to collect NFTs. And if Gaspard is buying and minting something, I'm probably going to do the same because I know that he's good at what he does. Problem is that if I go on Gaspard's OpenSea page and I see the wonderful collections called the Mika Cat, and I see that Gaspard minted Mika Cat, I'm like, wow, Mika Cat must be such a huge project. I should do that as well. The thing is that the OpenSea UI cannot distinguish an active mint, an active act of minting, from a smart contract automatically sending the NFT to Gaspard's account. So lots of people follow Gary V's wallet or Pranksies or Beanies or whatever, and they go to their account and they see that they've minted Mika Cats, and like, okay, they're either gonna go buy Mika Cats on the secondary, or gonna go to mikacats.com and blind sign. And in both of these cases, you're either gonna get rug pulled or you're either going to blind sign a transaction that's going to take some assets away from you. So what I want to say here is having a minted logo and a minted word associated to a certain NFT on someone's account on OpenSea doesn't mean that they minted it. The only way for you to verify this is if you click actually on the number of days that it was minted, you end up in Etherscan, and you check the address where it's coming from. If it's not coming from the Gaspard's address and it's coming from the smart contract directly, it means that Gaspard hasn't actually minted it. And lots of people fall for these, and today, you have all of these FOMO hypes where, if someone's minted something, that it must be good, and if someone is, well known and minted a certain NFT, then it must be great, and everyone else follows. And you have, lots of people that are holding these NFTs, and they're probably, going to dump on you, or, as I was saying, you're probably going to blind sign. It's going to end up, in a pretty dire situation. So, Etherscan is your best friend. It's your eyes and ears into the blockchain. If you're able to use Etherscan in order to read what's happening on the blockchain, you're probably going to avoid a lot of silly mistakes. So there are a few things that you need to be looking at. First of all, the contract address. So most of the time, you should check the contract addresses of the collections that you're minting first to see if they actually match with the official collection. Another thing you should be looking at is if the contract is actually verified and if the source code is available. Most hackers and scammers are not gonna actually publish their source code because they know that if they publish it, someone from the community is actually gonna read that source code and find out that it's actually not a very good contract. So if the source code is available and the smart contract has been live for some time and you have a lot of owners and holders, these are all indicators that showcase that could enable you to learn and understand if that smart contract and if that collection is actually malicious or not. Another thing you should also be looking at is the number of holders and the actual weight of each holder. So if you're minting a certain collection and you have one holder, it's a collection of 10K PFP, and you have one holder that actually owns 60% of the collection, it's not a good sign. They're going to rug pull you. So most of the time, a healthy kind of distribution is, we're looking at Cool Cats here. Obviously, Cool Cats is one of, the OG NFT collections. The biggest holder owns 3%. They own, 324 Cool Cats. It's a decent bag, but it's still relatively small compared to, the overall collection itself. So these are the kind of small things that you should be looking at and that will enable you to understand if the move that you're about to make is a good move or if it's a move that you're going to regret, a couple of seconds after blind signing.
I think last piece of advice, it's not showing up in this presentation. We are ending, it's actually finished, but try to be careful about influencers and people that are chilling NFT on Twitter, because most of the time they are also promoting their own interest, and they also can be paid to tweet and to do their job as an influencer. So be careful of the communication on the social media and influencer as well. So yeah, it just, I think you are now have the asset in your hand to take this journey. It's gonna be amazing. We are very early. NFT.
Actually, we're not here to scare you. We probably just want to make sure that you guys have the tools and the knowledge, because as we said, having and owning a ledger doesn't do the job. You need actually to do your homework and understand exactly that with big freedom and great power comes great responsibility. So yeah, we're happy to take a few questions because we've got probably I don't know 5 minutes for questions. 3 minutes? Okay, 3 minutes then. I'm going to start with.
Hi. Are there any resources where we could see the smart contract technical things translated into plain English, like a plugin or something which enables that? I know MetaMask is working on it, but they don't do a good job, like you told. So are there any other resources which are developing or something that we should know about?
Yeah, so, as Gaspard was mentioning earlier, we're working on it with LEDGER Live. So LEDGER Live is kind of the software that comes with your hardware. it's kind of the app store to your iPhone, kind of like that, and it enables you to manage your different assets. But what we're doing right now is that we're enabling the different developers out there to come build on top of Ledger. So if you have a project and you want to make sure that your community actually has the ability to experience and interact with your project in the safest way there is, you can come and build on top of Ledger. We'll help you set up the plugins that will enable your community to clear sign. So they will have their private key secure with their hardware wallet, and they will be able to clear sign and verify their transactions on the trusted display of the device before confirming that with the physical 2FA.
So do you have some best practice to store a seed phrase? For instance, like a bank account seems pretty fair, but on the other hand, it can be seized by the government. So yeah, what's your point on that?
So storing seed phrases is actually the million-dollar question. You don't have one way of doing it. It really depends on your personal situation. So for instance, if you live in an apartment and you have 4 roommates, and the roommates change all the time, it's probably not the best idea to store your seed phrase at your place. The whole idea is that you should have multiple ledgers, seeded with that same phrase. That would enable you to store that seed phrase away from your place, all while knowing that if one, ledger device, if you lose one or one fails or whatever, you're still going to have a very fast access to your assets without having to go get that seed phrase. That being said, means that, I don't know, it could be, buried in your parents' backyard or in a safety deposit box in a certain bank account. It's up to you to take that best decision. Lots of people try, to probably divide their seed phrase into multiple pieces. You should learn about that if you decide to do it, because it's not the easiest kind of way of securing a seed phrase, but it's the most secure. So it's all about your personal situation and your also level of expertise. We actually advise people to use a metal plate if they can. It's fireproof, waterproof, and as I said, seed multiple devices, store it away from where you live, and never tell anyone where it's located. That way, you're sure that you can safeguard it.
When you say to never tell anyone, that works in theory until something happens to you. So
Sorry, I misheard this.
When you say to never tell anyone, that works in theory until something happens to you. So what do you recommend in terms of people who live by themselves or don't have wives or...
That's a very, very hard question. I'm actually, I don't know, like, obviously you should be able to, have either a will that's somewhere that someone can access at some point if something happens to you, and where you can indicate where that seed phrase is. You also have a lot of different protocols that are actually working on this, and that enable you to use proof of, kind of using official documents that give a proof of this that then unlocks a certain smart contract that would enable to, you put in an address and your seed phrase would be sent to this address. So you have, Safe Haven. I don't know if you've heard, and REKT, they have like such a solution. And you have a lot of different solutions that are being developed that would enable you to use blockchain in order to distribute that seed phrase to a certain address in case something happens to you, and in case someone is able to actually provide documents that would verify that. So yeah, there's no perfect answers for now, but yeah, you should obviously put in place the necessary measures for you to be able to transfer down your digital assets in case something happens to you.
Maybe the simplest answer to this is just to put your seed phrase in a safe deposit bank. So someone, your wife, knows it's in the deposit bank, and only you have access to it. So classic one.
You gave some examples of hacking attacks and dangers that we can face. I've heard of one which I didn't understand entirely, that if an NFT is burned, for whatever reason, sent to zero address, it actually quite easily can be reminted. How do you know how does it work?
Could you say that again? I'm so sorry, I didn't get it.
It was actually yesterday presentation.
Yesterday's presentation.
Yeah, not of Ledger.
Oh, okay.
Of another, yeah.
Yeah.
And the guy gave an example of how burned NFT or smart contract, in fact, can easily be reminted. It's something what he was doing. So out of legitimately burned smart contract, he was sort of able to recreate it, remint it.
Okay.
Is it indeed so easy to do? Do you know something about that?
I'm going to try to answer this. So if you burn a certain token, that token is burned, but the media that is associated to that token can be given to another token. So, you know, if you have an image that lives on IPFS, you burn a certain token that points to that image, you can actually remint, you know, another token that also points to that image in some way or another. So it really depends on what you consider to be the NFT itself. Is it the token or is it the media? And okay. That's
I think it's a very edge case. I've seen this in the past. It's very, very seldom, but it can happen when you have customized self-contracts. So this function should be written into the smart contract. So this is something you should prepare in the code base. But most of the smart contract cannot do this operation.
Last question. Okay.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
So you mentioned the weight earlier, right? So you want to make sure that one address doesn't own like 50% of the collection. But is there a way to check if one person, for example, owns 10 different addresses, each owning 5% of the collection, giving them 50% of the collection in total?
There is a way of doing it, but it's not easy. So, you know, you're probably going to have to analyze the blockchain, you know, if you're working with, you know, if you have access to technologies like chain analysis or other, you know, kind of advanced technologies that would enable you to have, you know, links in between all of these different addresses. You know, if you're a normal collector, it'll take some time, and it's probably going to be very hard for you to do that. But you know, probably in most cases, when you have these rug pulls, the actual scammers are quite lazy. So, you know, if they're doing that like kind of very advanced kind of scheme, it's actually going to be very hard for you to verify that. So, you know, you could just check the different addresses if there are transactions between them. That's like kind of the simplest way of doing it. But if they're trying to hide it in a way that's very professional, it's not going to be an easy task. Right, I think we're going to have to leave the stage. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.